Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of I Would Like to Have a Conversation. This episode, I chatted with Todd again. Remember Todd?
Yes.
Remember Todd? Yeah, and we talked about pretty much about going on dates with your partner. So like me going on dates with mum. That's pretty cool, isn't it? You're like, what? What do you think? Pretty cool?
I think it's a wonderful.
It's a wonderful idea. You sold that really well.
Keep saying that in episode 1.
All right, we're going to say goodbye to everyone. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Yay.
It's a big review.
Skeleton will kill you.
Hey everyone, welcome back. This is like round 4 with Todd, and it's episode 6. Episode 6, which is cool. And today we're kind of going into sort of like what we were just talking about before, off the call. And we want to sort of dive into what challenges dads kind of have when they become a dad. And we're going to sort of jump off where all of a sudden you've gone from like you have this identity in all this space and capacity to do all the things you want to do to an awesome little baby coming into the world, but all of a sudden your time is gone and you go to like almost this 110-120% capacity. And I know it was for me and a few of the friends that I talked to. The hardest thing was to let go of what they used to do before becoming a dad. And in a sense of me, it was like this whole 2 hours training a day. I loved working out, I'd go for runs, all this time to do all that kind of stuff and learning and building the business and then having a baby. And then I tried to fit all that stuff in again and I just kept burning out. I don't know what it was like for you, Todd, but that's what happened to me. I just kept trying to ram that square peg round hole scenario over and over again. It took me a while to figure it out.
I think when I look back on what happened for me, I think the transition was hard, and what I did to deal with it was like I was working late.
Yeah.
And when I share this, I cringe because it was like, oh, you left this new mom at home, to do all this work, and that's like, I didn't realize it in hindsight. Like, I mean, that wasn't my intention. The things, I'm building a business, I need to do all this other stuff. And whether it was getting that work out and trying to, continue to feed the things that, like you had said, that I was doing before. But I found myself kind of not checking out, avoiding certain duties, and calling it work. And so that, I remember it being a really tough transition, whether it's, your late nights, your mornings, like all your routine is completely, out the window. So that's what I found is something that I did to try and adjust, was like just spend more me time at the office, like figuring my life out and how, and it really wasn't accomplishing anything. And I know my heart was really at home, making sure that like my wife was good and my child had what he needed at the time. So it was a huge adjustment. You lose not only what goes on in your daily life and your schedule, but there's your identity pieces they have to shift, and it's really hard letting go of those pieces. And I found it to be, it wasn't the identity of the dad, it was something I always wanted. I found it harder letting go of those pieces of things that just no longer were serving us as a family anymore. They may have served me, but they weren't going to serve us in that capacity. And the things I did, whether it was, the craft beer or, stuff like that. So yeah, I found the whole transition to be, it's been a beautiful journey, but certainly tough in the beginning.
It's interesting because like that whole safety behaviors thing where like it's uncomfortable, we pull into that. safety behavior instead of like your work was the safety behavior. Because I went the stay-at-home dad route, and I was working online and doing bits and pieces at coaching, but I was the primary carer for Theo and Ruby because Kat went back to work. So the big thing for me was I still went into a safety behavior, but it's like a little bit different. I fell into, because it was such a new transition, I obviously got less activity because I was home with the baby and I had to look after the baby. So that's like a big piece, is like you lose so much activity that you just didn't really think about. And you like, I was literally just sitting, like, because he wasn't a sleeper. We were sitting him down and trying to get him to sleep all the time. And he always slept on us for almost like a year and a half. So I just watched tons of movies. Like, I watched so many movies, which I loved the whole time. Like, it was amazing chilling out with Theo all the time at home. It was probably the best time I had. And even with Ruby as home as well, and Theo was sort of in and out of school, that was still really cool times. Yeah, that inactivity piece, which is sort of started spiraling up for me, where the depression stuff started kicking in, like postnatal depression on a male side. Totally, like, it's a different scenario, but it's kind of like, I saw it as like, it took me a while to sort of figure it out, but it was kind of, I used the analogy eventually, was that it was like a major surgery. And this is what I say to the mums. Like, once you become a mums, it's pretty much, well, it is a major, major surgery, realistically. And we've got to rebuild and rehab and come back from that. But for the dads, I do the same thing now, where I'm like, everything that was pre-kid is gone. Like, what you would do if you had a massive injury in sporting sense. Everything pre-injury is gone. And we've got to rebuild all new PRs and everything coming back. So I use that analogy for myself. Everything pre-dad is gone. We start from zero. And this reduced that feeling of like I have to be what I was before. And I was like, it's zero. Let's start again, which made it kind of exciting. And I had this kind of idea, where I would go like build it up. This is where the 5-minute rule come from. I started with 5 minutes. It was that PLP. It was like push up, lunge, pull up. That was the strength work. And I would do 5 minutes on social media to build my online coaching thing. It was all these things, like, it was all this 5-minute rule. And then I would add another 5 minutes and do that for a little bit. And then add another. And you keep going until I hit a friction point, or I get sick, or I copped an injury, which would be me forcing. So it'll get to a point where it gets like that. And then I would reset and go back to the 5-minute rule. So I get a 5 and build it back up. And over a little period, I started like the rebound effect. Like, I would get back to baseline, to where I was, faster and faster and faster. But it took, and I think it does take a little bit to sort of figure out your friction points, because it's kind of different for everyone. So in the sense of work, in the sense of health and fitness, but we'll touch it on just before the call, like in the sense of relationships. Like, I think Kat and I were talking about it recently, where even just now, the kids are way older and we're not really dating each other. So we've got, like, everyone's got their thing. And right now we've got like the work week, and then Saturday is soccer with the kids, and then Sunday is soccer with me, and then we're back on Monday. So it feels like we're just literally like just smashing through everything. Not smashed, like it's enjoyable, we're chilling out, but yeah, we're not really finding that time for the relationship piece, which is another big piece that tends to drop off when kids come along. And yeah, that intimacy, for lack of a better word, sex with your partner, can drop away massively. And I know lots of guys that I talk to that's happened to, and they don't know what to do with that. And it's probably something that needs to be discussed. But because we're so, like, men are very caveman driven, we see women, we have sex. Like, it's sort of like the dating thing is probably the most important piece to sort of creep into it, like building back those connections and relationships. Now we've got a kid because we're the same people, but we're different. Does that make sense? I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah.
No, you're you, you like yes and no about the same being the same person. Like I do think having a child, whether you're the woman having the child or even the father, is a massively profound experience. And like maybe I would like to think that I'm a drastically different person after doing some different ceremonies and doing a lot of self healing. Um, I think for me, and it took me, I mean, we've been married since, I think 15, 16 years or something. Uh, no, excuse me, 10 years, but we've been together for that long, is just being able to communicate like what it is that's actually on our mind. Just being forward about it. But also like spending some time sitting with what's going on and being able to process it, because I know that for a long time, and hopefully with what you were sharing, this makes sense and where I'm trying to go. Yes, the intimacy may drop, doesn't necessarily mean that it has to, but there are changes that need to be or get to be communicated, and a lot of that can come from the women. Obviously there's a physical change of they shouldn't be intimate for a certain period of time, but when I think it's just important to be able to openly talk about and communicate that, from the women's side and from the man's side, and just have an open conversation like you were saying, and be able to just freely communicate that and not feel like you're harboring any kind of like resentment or feelings, because I think the more that you can talk about it and communicate it, hey, and just in short, like the conversations are going to be deeper than this, but hey, I'm not ready yet. Hey, I'm ready. But let those feelings come up. Let us talk through and work through whatever it is that we're both experiencing, so we can continue to be on the same page. I think that's what's important, and not that it's all about just being physical. I think there's a lot that plays into it. But just even fast forwarding till now, like you had said, it's like dating. Like there was something I've been going through the past like 6 months with her and and I was like getting frustrated because she's not a communicator. Like sorry, I'm starting to realize even now, like even up to this week, she's a nonverbal communicator, and I'm not picking up those signals because I want to be spoken to. It, like you had said, it just makes sense. Just talk to me. And just being able to observe those nonverbal signals has been so massive. And what I've found too, though, is I've been doing a better job of communicating what I'm seeing, so that way she feels seen and heard in her own way of communication. Yeah, I felt like that was a tangent too, but I think all in all, what I started noticing was like it wasn't that like a fire went out. It was just, hey, we've lost this like spunk here. Like I want to go back to when we were like dating, like legit dating, like
Yeah.
and I think that that's something that a lot of partners lose, and for whatever reason, and maybe like they actually fall out of love, but I don't think it has to be exactly like that. I think we can continue to date each other even though we know the ins and outs of those people. I still think that there's more to explore, no matter how long you've been together, and there's just different ways that you can keep everything alive. I felt like that was all over the place, but
Yeah.
I guess I was just trying to cover my own experience from start to finish, from like after Chase was born, even all the way up till now. It's been an interesting road to navigate that, because from my perception, I do feel like I have taken a back seat, and I love that uh, she loves and cares for her children the way that she does, and I wouldn't want that to change. I just there are some, and maybe there are some wounds and traumas that I still need to work through, but there are that I want to go back to still being, whether it's once a week or once a month, like I want to feel like a priority. And that's important even for me as the guy in this relationship. So
It's super interesting because I was like, as you were talking, something popped up, and I went through with a dad yesterday, this thing I do where it's like deconstructing the shadow, figuring out the subconscious parts that are anchoring him down, holding him back. And I was talking about what we're going to do to build the new version. And he had a big block. This will make sense to me. He had a big block. I was like, I just don't see myself getting there. I was like, yeah, you just don't have proof yet. And like, what do you need to get the proof? What do you got to do? And show up every day, doing the thing that's going to lead to the thing. So I was thinking about that in the sense of what you were talking about. I was thinking about it for myself as well. I was like, what was different before we had kids and early in the relationship to now? And I was like, the proof's almost in the pudding. You dated heaps. You went out and socialized heaps. You went out to brekkies. You went out to coffees. You hung out together. You shared lots of shit. You'd stay up late on the phone saying, no, you hang up. No, you hang up. All those things, like it's all proof where it builds like that mad connection early on. And then it's super interesting. So there's like that piece where they're like, where you feel like you're lost it. And you're like, I don't think we can never get it back. Like I've heard people say that. And then it's like, what's the proof? Are you doing the stuff that you were doing before? You might not be able to do it at the same level because you got kids and stuff and like life is full. But there's probably trade-offs that can be made to plant the seed that we want. And another thing that kind of come up there, so that was about this idea of proof, is like, what are the daily things that we used to do with our partner, to our partner, that we don't do anymore? This is me literally talking to myself. I'm trying to mirror myself here. So what is it I used to do with Kat that I've sort of dropped? And this thing I've got where I've stolen this from BG, Brian Grasso from King's Crew. I'd be the fucking man. If I was going to look at it and like counted my wins and look back over this year, the 5 months we've been into, is like, what are the wins I've counted on being a partner that dates his wife? And that makes sense. If that makes sense, like, what are the daily things I've been doing to even plant the seed to go on a date, to plant the seed to have those intimate times? And I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, percentages would be low for me. So I'm looking at myself, like literally pointing at myself, like, get proof, do the work. Like, what am I waiting for?
yeah, that's so there's little things that I started to do. I think in the beginning when you're dating, like you hold the door open, at the car for the car.
Yeah.
Maybe because you're really trying to go that extra step to make sure. But one of the things that was like bugging me is it's exactly what you were talking about, Chris, was what proof do I have?
Mm.
And I realized that like I wasn't leaving myself these breadcrumbs. I wasn't leaving myself that proof. And the question I had to ask myself is like, well, what kind of partner? Like, I need to look at myself. I need to look at me from her perspective. Like, why doesn't she feel like she can fit me in and want to date me? In these like I had to really ask myself that, and I took these like little steps. I started literally opening like the car door for her. I was like, man, like, because like, what is the cutest thing in the world is to see this old school couple, I think. And you see the guy just still go over and open up that woman's car door. And I,
Yeah,
I will tell
100%.
you, it like makes me emotional every time I see it. I had to ask myself, like, why in the hell aren't you doing that?
Oh,
Like, what kind of person do you want to be? What kind of, like, don't have to be like the man, like, but like, what kind of man do you want to be? What kind of partner do you want to be? And yes, it's less about opening the car door than it just is about being that person that you want to be. And if that's the step that I want to take to be the partner, then that's what I'm going to do. And I really love what you had shared with that dad, because yeah, right now he's not leaving himself, like success leaves clues. He's not even giving
mm,
himself some breadcrumbs, so he can't see how that's going to work. Um, and that was something that I had the aha moment with. I was on that side where that dad was like, oh, this is like, and then all of a sudden, like, I didn't, I guess I didn't have to leave myself clues, in the sense of like, I just had to ask myself, like, I had to take full responsibility for it, in a sense. Like, if this isn't happening the way that like I want it to happen, I'm not going to force it. So flow versus force, but how can I make this flow better? And I started, and I it just think, even things around the house. I started like, I felt like she was leaving these nonverbal clues, like, doing certain laundry and leaving like a stack here. So I started putting it away. I'm like,
yeah.
okay, she left it. Just little things like that. And then, she went out with her girlfriends Friday night. I did all the laundry while she left, and the first thing she did when we woke up was, "Thank you for taking care of that." It had started piling up on one of
Yeah.
the chairs, and that, it wasn't looking for brownie points or anything, but it was like, I'm like, this is my house too. She does a lot. We both do a lot, but she was leaving me clues, and that night I was able to figure that out. And it was a beautiful transition, for me to see, and put a mirror in front, of the things that I wasn't doing, or the things in my mind that I wanted to do but had a lot of resistance to. And I think this is another thing that I'll share. And then I had a conversation with one of my clients, is we sometimes can build up resentment,
Mm,
when things aren't going the way that we want them to go, or that we think that they should go. We don't feel like we're being dated back, or for whatever reason, like we build resentment. We can build a massive deep story in our head, and it can really make a relationship go in the opposite direction if we let that story get away from us. And most of the time, that story is a story that's purely created in our head, until we actually start to have a civil conversation around it, not one where you're
mhm.
you're trying to scream the story at the other person, because they don't understand it. Like, this is a story created in your head. But when you can come to them and just express what you're feeling, and be validated by that, and be seen by the other person. um, and that's happened recently for us as well. Just being able to communicate that, instead of it coming from a, "You're not doing this and I want this to happen." It was more like, "This is the way that I'm feeling." And that's how I came to that conclusion, where I was like, "Hey, let's start dating each other again."
Yeah.
Let's start doing those little quirks again." And she actually looked at me and she smiled, and she was like, "Yeah, you're right. Like we can do that." So, um
It's kind of
what
like, yeah, when you were talking about like the resentment build up thing, that's like where I think I told you about it, where Kat and I did the Fair Play card game, where if anyone doesn't know what it is, go to Fair Play. Oh, I think it's fairplay.com. There's a card game you can do, and she's got all the cards available, so you can do this for free, but we got the deck. And it's about all the roles that need to be filled inside the home. And this is where, like, when people build resentment and then things blow up, and it just feels like there's like friction. Like you're trying to move something, and then maybe the other person is not really ready yet. It's usually because it's like a mental load thing. They literally are 100% full. Might not look it, but mentally they are at capacity. And it could feel like, and I've had this in past relationships before, where a girlfriend I had at the time, I'd come home from a full days of work, and the house was just was a complete mess, stuff everywhere, and she was just sitting down watching a movie. And back then, we just blew up, And now I realize it was just she had a mental load that was completely chocolate, which I can understand now. And so Kat and I went through this process and we did everything. Kat has a busy career and she does a lot of driving for her work, so she's away from home a lot. So, but she was doing a lot of stuff, not visually, which is super interesting about this fair play card game. It was like making sure the kids are signed in out of school for certain, like going to therapy sessions, filling out the forms again to go to athletics carnivals. She was doing the money stuff, making sure bills were on top, like loans and stuff. All these little things that are like a big mental load just meant that she was at capacity all the time. And then she had this guilt of not doing enough stuff around the house. So I actually went into the fair play thing because I was like, I think you're doing heaps. You might not think it, but I think you are. And then we did the stack, and then it's a funny game in itself, just doing it. But the stack was still more to her than to me when I'm home more. So I started taking more stuff. I'm like, give me this, give me this, give me this, give me this. And like, just so you got more capacity when you got home, which is like what we talk about. It's like space building. I don't think I've ever said that before, but that's what it should be. We should call it before. Like literally the
TM that thing.
The idea of like, if you're full, we talk about this when we talk to parents or dads when we want to coach them. Their life is literally 100% full. So there's going to be trade-offs, and there has to be a trade-off. You can't fit something into an already full cup. There's a spillover. That's when people lose their shit. Stress, depression, anxiety, all those things. The spillover is that. That's like a metaphor of how I use it. Like you got your stress cup. All stress goes in there. Once it's full, it's full. You keep trying to add more, it's just going to spill over. And I use the analogy of like your health and fitness allows for a bigger cup. So you can allow more shit into it before it spill over. But it's still, when you're full, you're full. So the fair play game was our idea of creating trade-offs to release the mental load and creating space. And then having the discussions around the standards of completion of the task. So there was something, the funny story is that in there, Kat does the garden and the plants and the veggies. So like, I have no interest in doing plants and veg, like watering plants and stuff is like the most least interesting thing in my life. Like she goes like, I want to boil a plant. I'm like, that's fantastic. Does it have leaves? And then, so she's like, she loves that. But I love mowing because it's the job completion thing. Mowing, whip snippering, getting the leaves up. I love that kind of stuff. In the fair play card game, they are on the same card. The gardening and the mowing is the same. And because we both love it so much, we had to negotiate who was going to trade off what to free up space for something else. Like you obviously don't need to do that. Someone can do gardening, someone can do mowing. But it was super interesting in the sense that I'm making the trade-off and I'm going to start doing the gardening. So she doesn't have the mental load of coming home 6, 7 o'clock at night thinking, I've got to go water the garden and it's freezing cold outside. It's already done. I did it earlier. And I can do it. I just don't want to do it. Like it's a big wow for me. Like who gives a shit? Just go do it. So it was in that sense where like that one, if any, like hopefully we've got listeners. If any parents are listening, go do the fair play card game because it puts on the table who's doing what. And it shows where the load is going. And like we heard it from the Imperfects podcast, and even on that podcast, they were like, we're sorry to all the dads to suggesting this, because dads think they're going to have this huge stack and it's usually less, nearly every time. Because we don't think of the stuff. And we're problem solvers. So unless it's like an immediate problem, we don't really have it in the front of our mind. While, especially Kat, she's good at like thinking ahead. When I'm like, give me a problem, I'll solve it. Give me a problem, I'll solve it. So it would usually be like, like the kid's uniform. Oh, we've got to go to school on Monday. We don't have the uniform. Let's go get it. That kind of scenario.
That made me think of, because like what I try to do as well is come into her task and problem solve them so they can be done quicker.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, which is don't do that. But one of the and I imagine the words you used when you shared this with me, and it was really profound, was energy audit.
Yeah.
And I found that to be really profound. And you had said something that, and we didn't even need to. I just communicated it with her. We didn't need to actually write it out just yet. I had recognized what you had already seen, that I wasn't doing nearly as much. Um, I felt like, and I think because of the amount of worry that dads have that goes unnoticed, um, that's really hard to convey to your
Mm.
partner or to the world. But that was part of my energy audit. I had to realize that, like, as much as I worried about finances and all these things, um, that wasn't actually a part of the doing. um,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
though it felt like it took up so much space, which was really interesting because what it ended up triggering me to do was take more action. And so as in a flow versus flow way, not forceful way. So I
Yeah.
just want to be mindful, coach. All right. Um, but yeah, the energy audit was massively profound, because then it like allowed for me to see, all right, because we have a dishwasher, like, um, just doing, like, I don't know, call a little bit simple tasks around the house to alleviate some stuff for her, and realizing that, like, even having a conversation about work, about this, was difficult for her because she had met her capacity already,
Mm.
and that was her way to communicate, I just don't have the capacity to do this. And that really opened up my eyes to the fact that, like, oh, maybe it's not that she's not a communicator. She's just been running at her max for a while.
Mm.
And and as much as I wish she would communicate that, I've had to pick up on that and realize it through, just bringing this awareness. So yeah.
It's kind of the cool thing about this conversation's been really cool. The cool thing when you, like, say, when we did the fair play thing, like, if anyone does it, would love to get feedback on how you went when you did it too. That'd be cool. Like, go on a date. We'll tee up the two. Go on a date, do the fair play, take the cards, do the stack, and then go on another date and set the standards. But the cool thing is, if you do have the capacity to do it, and life is full, and neither of you want to get to do a thing, but you know it's a thing that needs to be done, you could hire help to get it done. I know some people can't do that, but that's kind of the options you can do. It's not like you have to do everything. And there's some things we don't have to do because we're renters. Like, we don't have to do certain things. So they take it out of the list. But it's that whole thing about, like, awareness, like what we do in the health and fitness space. Like, we get when we're working with someone, we want to have the awareness of what's currently going on. Like, what are you currently doing? What's all the good stuff? Let's keep doing that. And then let's plug the gaps. That's what good coaching is. If you go to someone and they're like, throw everything out that you're already doing and start this new awesome thing over here, it's not really ideal, especially as a parent. So it's kind of what it's cool. This chat we're having is literally around, like literally getting that awareness. What is happening? What's the proof of, like, if you feel like you're losing that connection with your partner, what's the proof? And then, like, so you get the proof, you show it. Like, if someone actually said, is like, where is it? Show up, do the things that lead to those intimacy and those connections. And then you're like, oh, we just don't have time for it. And it's like, cool. Get awareness around what the roles are. Who's doing what? When is it happening? And is there space? Can we find space? Is there stuff? There's always going to be trade-offs. I mean, that's a big conversation to have. It's like, something has to die for something else to grow. So being okay with making the trade-offs, and you look at like what you do in your day. It's like that whole James Clear thing. You look at your day. Are my habits going to lead to the outcome I want eventually? Like whenever the finish line is going to be, but are they going to get there eventually? So if it's like better relationship with your partner, is like our daily habits. Like it's something so simple, and this is just like a realization for me. Are my current daily habits going to lead from more intimacy, or even just more closeness with my partner, more connection?
We
And it's something so
sorry,
simple but so powerful.
yeah. The showing up and making a big change, like just being present. I'll tell you something that I was like concerned about. I was like nervous to ask her. So a friend of ours like took both kids for like a few hours. So she has a son, and they have fun, and so they took the kids for a few hours. Um, sometime on the weekend, and we sat down, and our normal default was to just throw on whatever show we were in the middle of, right? And we started it, and I stopped it. I paused it for a second, and I looked over and I said, "Hey, like," I said, I'm right now. I'm taking the time to be aware that um, I want more like intimacy. I want to be able to have deeper conversations with you. I want to talk about different things about life and what you're going through, what I'm going through, what the world's going through. And I want to know, since we don't have the kids, I stared right at her and looked her right in the eyes, and I said, "I want to know, is this what how you want? Is this how we want to spend our next couple hours together?" I was like, I said, "I want to be a part of the solution and not continue to be a part of the problem that I feel like we have." And I looked, I just looked right at her, and she, at the time, like it really wasn't that long that we had together. Like we watched one episode, and then she there was some other things that she got to do, but it was like just bringing that extra level. Hey, this is to, um, do you want to, and I know that may take. That's the other thing too. I think with us, like I want it to be different. I want it like right then and there. I want it to change. I wanted to have a deeper conversation. But now I realize like I just have to continue to show up like that. So I can not only leave myself clues that this is who I am and who I want to be and how I want to show up, but then over time she's going to also see that I'm really serious about this. And my actions in the past indicated that I wasn't, because I would just sit down and check out and shut off. So that was a really cool moment. I just figured I would share, and hopefully it helps someone. But it was a big moment for me. I was in it, and I was like, I'm kind of nervous, like just saying this. But then it was just really, yeah, it was really cool to bring that awareness around it. Like that is what I want. I want to have deeper conversations, but I also know that we work together. We spend like 99% of our waking time together. And so if there is going to be some time that we are together, but we can kind of shut down and not have to communicate, then I'm going to allow for that too.
Yeah.
Allow for it.
Yeah. It's a big thing, like what you said, like flow versus force. So yeah, like awareness, putting that gap between like subconscious actions. Like I'm been on the fence for a while just to get rid of the TV altogether, just so it gets us reading books, drawing, talking, all that kind of stuff. But it's one of those things, like it's more to help Theo and Ruby, but mainly Theo because it's such a big addiction for him, like it is for all kids. But we're also like, if we take it away, it's in school, so we've got to teach him how to juggle it anyway. So it's one of those things I'm playing around with. I'm definitely on the, like, literally, I'm subscribed to all the subscriptions, all like Disney, everything. And I'll be lucky if I watch them that much anymore. And I'm sort of at that time where I had that battle for a while where it was FOMO. I'm missing out on the great shows everyone talks about. And Kat and I both had it. Like, we got this really good show we got to watch. Got this really good show we got to watch, and we'll be watching it on our phones, like outside, and just weird stuff like that. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I just want to get rid of them. And if it's a really good show there's a friction where we've got to pay for it off Apple TV or something like that, where it builds that thing. Because I totally relate to the idea of, and I do this myself. Admittedly, I go to bed very early, so it's a little bit different. The end of the day, wishing hour's over, which is like the most stressful hour or 2 or 3 or 4 for any parent, just getting kids ready for bed. You get into bed and you're absolutely zonked, like you're completely cooked. And I can totally relate to like just going and sitting and recharging, watching TV. But if we sort of thought about it in the sense of our kids, looking through the lens of kids, what does it do? It looks like they're recharging if they're tired and you put them in front of the TV. But it feels like the battery just charges up. Like it's not a recharge in the sense of like good things are going to happen. It just sort of blunts it. And then you take it away and then it's just like kaboom. It just huge things up. They just didn't release whatever that tension was. So I fell in that trap too. I don't know if you have as well. That the late, like the end of the day TV watch, like Bosch was our thing for ages. Like we'd go to bed and watch Bosch on our iPad. And we did it for zonkies ages. And I would wake up tired, I would get cranky, Cat would get cranky, we had shitty sleep, and we did it for like nearly a year. And it took us a long time to get to like we know these things. We're coaches. Like I know, like watching screens in the bed is the worst idea ever. But we did it anyway. And it was just to block things out. Bosh, yeah, it's a great show. You should start watching it. No. It's on Prime. It's a detective show. I think Michael Connelly is the author of the books. It's a quality show, but it's like 7 seasons, and then Bosch Legacy is another 3 seasons. So we just finished the 7. So we're watching like one a week on the weekend, maybe now. But yeah, anyway, the safety behavior stuff. Going back around to that, like you said, sitting down on the couch, you finally got some free time. The first we went to was like TV.
Yeah.
And then same with me. It's that safety. And like you said something so cool. It was like, when you said that thing, you felt really uncomfortable even just trying to get it out. And it is leaning into the uncomfortable. And what was really good about our relationships when we started, it was super scary. We were incredibly uncomfortable and awkward. We'd get mad butterflies saying whatever it is we wanted to say. And it was like mad exciting. So it's kind of like, that's proof. Yeah. That's what we're like leading back into it. It's the proof that we need of like, if it feels a little bit weird when you want to say something or set up a day or a plan or whatever it is, like trying to create those deep connections again, and you want to say something to your partner and you're like, oh this feels a little bit weird. That's good. That's perfect. That's literally what it was before. That's what made it so exciting. And then like everything that's exciting and a dopamine high, which is what you get early on in a relationship, the dopamine high, you just chase more dopamine. I think you might not get those dopamine highs like you used to, like those really big butterflies and that big release. But the uncomfortableness in a good way is probably a good gut check moment to sort of lean into. And if you think like, if you even have that, like that thought of like, I should probably do this, it probably means you should.
Yeah.
And don't let it fly away on you. Don't let that thought go. Go do the thing.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. And I think more men, dads, husbands, like, and even the moms and wives, do the thing. I think we get into these grooves and these ruts of how we should show up on a daily basis because we're a sense like training each other. Like, this is who I am, this is who I'm becoming, and and to break free from that, through this whole spiritual journey of mine is like I have a vision. It's not as clear right now, and it's becoming clear, of the person and the man and the husband and the father that I want to be. And it's not that simple to just step into that. I want it to be, but there are just layers that I'm unpacking in order to show up as that person that I envision for myself. And a part of that is being aware, like you had said, of those things that make us uncomfortable, and leaning into them, and doing like what I did that night by asking. Like I had so many thoughts of like, she gonna think this is weird? Like, I think this is kind of weird. Like, if we just sit here and talk. And finally, I had to tell myself, like, no, I want this. So, like, I'm not, there's no reason to be scared to ask for something that you want. And, worst case scenario, she says no, she doesn't want to do it right now. And that's fine. I to respect that as well. So, lean into it. That'll be what we'll share on this episode. Just like, because if you don't like what's happening, and if you don't like what's going on, then you have all the opportunity to take that first step of awareness and make a change. And it may not happen immediately, and that's what I also want to get out to people, is like, you, just because you say this or you do something one day doesn't mean that all the dynamics have to change for that. You got to keep showing up, as you said, and you have to keep giving yourself that proof that you are changing. And it's just like with the clients that we talk about. We talk about identity shifting. We talk about how you're gonna feel like an imposter because you are stepping away from an old identity that no longer serves you. But keep leaning into it, and just jump.
Yeah, collect the proof that you are the person you are the person you want to be every day. That's beautiful. I think we wrap it up on that. That was perfect. All right, guys, thanks very much again for listening. Go find us on our socials everywhere. It's all in the show note links. Well, I'm all over the place. I do it every week. So go find us on our socials. If you want to reach out to Todd about what he does with dads, or even just have a chat with him, definitely send him a message. Same with me. If you want to have a chat about what we do, what I do with dads, mums, cats, dogs, fish, whatever.
Yeah.
We love having chats.
Yeah.
I love having conversations about feedback from the podcast and wherever it leads to.
I'll do a quick shout out. My wife also works with women. So she is somebody. So if you're a woman listening and you want to be able to have a conversation with another woman who has to put up with me, and maybe you want more insight from her about me. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. But just
he's like, no.
And I'm sure we'll have her on sometime to speak with us too.
Hell yeah, that'd be really good. I want to get Kat on too. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So,
awesome. Thanks, guys. See you.
Thank you.